You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt McGackie, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Kelly Schaefer of Atheist. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. As you can see, this week I am talking to none other than Gina Gleason from Baroness, and I am stoked to get you this episode. I think you are going to really enjoy it. She has a crazy story about how she worked with Cirque Du Soleil, and that was not exactly what I expected, and definitely not what she expected either. We get into that. We go into great detail, actually, about it, and really just go down the rabbit hole with her whole career. It's pretty insane. She's a super rad person, and I think you're really going to enjoy this tale. I don't have a lot of business to get into, so I will leave you with this one request that if you have not done so, if you could please review the podcast on your platform of choice. Throw it a 5-star, leave a comment, all that good stuff. All that interaction helps tremendously. It helps with people being able to find the show. It helps with people who are new, stumbling across it and realizing, yes, this is a ongoing, recent, consistent thing that I should invest a little bit of time into, because it's very difficult to get people to listen to a podcast as opposed to absorbing other forms of media. So please, if you could throw us a review, and by us, I mean me, on whatever your platform of choice is, that would mean a lot to me. So thank you very much for everyone who has done that. I'm trying to get over that 75 rating hump on Spotify just because it would be cool. Or actually, currently at 75. It'd be nice to break 100 here in the near future. So thank you to everyone that does that. I know most of you don't listen on Spotify, but about 10% of you do. So that would be massively helpful if you could throw me a bone over there. All right, without further ado, let's get into this episode with Gina Gleason. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff, occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have Gina Gleason. What's going on?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
Dude, this is going to be great.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't even know where to start with you, really. You've got quite the history, so I don't know, maybe we should just start from the beginning.
All right.
When did you first start getting into music and starting to play, and how did you end up in Baroness? That's got to be a wild ride. I want to hear the whole story.
That's a mystery to me still. But
okay.
yeah, I mean, I started pretty young, but not like, I wasn't like a little kid. I was like 13 or 14.
Normal age.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I have an older brother who was like, we were always really close growing up. So he was into like more extreme music first. So he would like show me things. Like, check out Pantera. He'd be like, here's Cannibal Corpse. Check it out. It's gross.
Oh, yeah.
Check it. Yeah. Like,
Hammer smash fist.
Yeah.
Face. Yeah.
And so like, I always leaned like, I loved that, like, and still do, obviously. But I like leaned more like classic rock too, where he was like not, didn't really care about that. So the first album that I got that really, I was like, whoa, I think I want to do this for my life was British Steel by Judas Priest.
Okay. Yeah.
And there's something about like the album cover where like, it was so mysterious to me. Like it looked really cool and really dangerous, but it wasn't so like overtly like gory or as like obvious as like a Cannibal Corpse record. Like when I looked at it, I was like, right. I don't know what this sounds like. So that was, I don't know, I think like a cool part of, when you're just walking around a record store as a kid and you just, something catches your eye and you're like, what is this thing?
The good old days when it was just, that's how you found stuff.
Totally. Yeah, you couldn't like look it up, have a sneak preview. So yeah, just bought that, and that was kind of like, oh yeah, this is what I love. So that's, I started playing guitar. There was a guitar, one of the Squier Strat packs laying around at my dad's house. And I guess it came with, or maybe he got somewhere along the line, this like VHS tape that was like, how to play the blues. And it was like this guy's going to show you like 12-bar blues. And I used to just like watch that. And I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I have to be able to do that. And I had a pretty like low bar. I was like, if I can do this, I think I'm good. I don't like need to pursue, I kind of just want to do this 12-bar blues situation.
Totally.
And then I'm good. I did it. I didn't know that'd be a lifetime of never really finishing getting good at the guitar.
Never.
There's always
Never.
more. Yeah. So that was the early discoveries.
Were you playing in bands right away, or was it you like, I did the 12-bar blues and now I'm just playing by myself in the bedroom for a while? Or how did that work out?
So we like pretty quickly had like an array of like neighborhood friend bands. My brother and I and one of our neighborhood friends, Mike, we had like a band that was exclusively inspired by Napalm Death, and that was like what we were trying to do.
All right.
And then other just friends from middle school, we would just like this guy that lives around the corner, he has a drum set, like let's round up a bunch of people and that's the band. And I'm sure ska breakdowns were plentiful.
Of course, as they should be.
Yeah. And then like once I got into high school, I went to like a performing arts high school in Philadelphia. I'm from Philly. So there's like two big like music magnet schools. So it's a public school, but you kind of test and or like audition to get in. So depending on like what the specialty is. So there's two of them that focus on music. So that's where I went for high school. It was pretty far from the neighborhood that I lived in. So it was kind of like a 2 public buses, kind of situation to get there. But I was really motivated to go. So it was like normal high school, but you would have like 3 days a week of orchestra, which I didn't play like anything that would suit an orchestra setting at the time. So they kind of put me on upright bass because they're like, this is tuned like guitar. You can do this.
Right.
And then you would have like 2 days of jazz, and then they would throw in like some, this is GarageBand, like check out like iMovie, which was very valuable to me at that time. And I think that's so valuable. And then there's music theory classes. So you would go from like English and math to like theory, and then go, to science after that or whatever. So I started taking it pretty serious around that age and started playing in more bands where we were playing out like anything from like basement shows to just kind of local shows around Philly and New Jersey and New York. And then I played in a Metallica cover band that did quite a bit of touring. And so that was kind of in that high school, maybe first year of college kind of age. So, so that was like the early introduction to like, here's what it's like to just like drive around the country in a van with your friends. So that, it's like anything with music, the deeper you go and discover like how many kind of paths there are, you're like, oh, I think I can do this, like I think I can make a life out of this.
That's something that I wish I didn't even really think about until I was probably in my mid to late 20s, where I just had this vision that the only way to be in music is to be the person on stage up there shredding or like in the spotlight. And that was the path to being in the music industry. But I've said this a million times on this show and people are probably getting tired of it, but I really did not want to tour. I was like, that life is not for me. I hate road trips.
Sure,
like I don't want to do that. I love the studio. I love being in that environment, but touring is not ever something I wanted to do. Yeah. And so I kind of wrote it off. Like, well, I can't do music then because I know that's the only way that life works, without realizing that there's all these other paths and other angles to where you can be involved or involved or even part of the creation process without being that person necessarily. And it can still be something you really enjoy and get a lot out of. So I always try to, anytime somebody touches on that, I try to reiterate, like, tell your kids there's more. There's a lot of ways to get involved in music if they want to,
I mean, it's like a little bit of a different scenario because like we are a band, but we haven't been on tour in the past like 10 months or so, but I think it's like the busiest we've ever been. And it's just like all of this other stuff that goes along with being a musician. And so, yeah, I think touring, I mean, if you are into it and you like it, that's just like the thing you get to do after doing all of the other things that have to happen. And so there's so many roles and important things. Yeah, touring is certainly not the be all end all of, any particular road you could have as an artist.
Mm-hmm. Somebody's got to pour blood on your head in music videos. It's just something that has to happen. Oh my gosh, right?
That did happen.
I know.
My partner is a nurse, and I was like, hey, do you want to like see what we kind of like do for a living? Like we're not on tour, but like you want to check this out? She's like, yeah, what are you guys working on? We're working on a music video. Cool. I was like, so I was hoping you could pour blood on us. I know you were just around blood.
I try to keep the blood
day.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was like, yeah, cool.
That was so cool. So, all right. So you're in the Metallica touring band or cover band.
Yeah.
And did that immediately hook you, or did it take a little bit of getting used to, because that's a completely different environment than going to school every day and doing that whole grind. Once you start hopping on the road, life changes pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, we were so young. We were like, myself and our drummer, we were, I think, like sophomores in high school. So it was like the ultimate freedom, like to just ride around in a van with your buddies and play shows every night. So, I mean, it was kind of like unbelievable. It was like, we can do this? Like, this is, So, yeah, I was hooked.
We're allowed to do this?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think because I went to a school that focused on music, they were really cool about being like, yeah, you can take off for tours and stuff, which, I don't know if I went to a normal school, if they would be as understanding or open to that. So I was like very lucky to like be able to kind of have that dialogue with, whatever, the school principal or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Listen, I need to go on tour with the Metallica
I have
cover
to
band.
Go play
I have
Whiplash.
To do this.
Yeah.
Yes. I need to play Whiplash every night. Okay. And the principal's like, you know what? That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I get that.
Totally.
My principal was like, you must stay in school. And I said, I don't want to, though, is the thing. And she's like, but you have to. And I was like, I don't think I do, actually.
Is this high school you're talking? Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. So did you like drop out of high school?
No, I didn't drop out. It's kind of an annoying story. I don't know if I've told it before, but I took extra classes and I wanted to get out early. I wanted to get my diploma. Yeah. I was an okay student despite not caring about school at all. Like not 1% did I care about school, but I did okay just by kind of floating through and just like, yeah, whatever, I'll do the assignment, whatever. I'd probably have Chat GPT do it now if I was in high school. Dude. But I did fine in school, and I took extra classes, went in early bird and did all this stuff because I wanted to get out early. I just wanted to be done and try to find my way in the world. And I met all the requirements. I had all the credits. I had a half a credit more than I would have needed actually to graduate. And but you had to get approval from the principal to do that. And she did not want to sign it.
Oh.
I have a theory now that I kind of understand how this works a little bit, that maybe population-wise, she was right on the edge of some sort of funding level for the next year.
Yeah.
I don't know this for a fact. I'm totally guessing. But she was really adamant. She did not want to sign the paper to let me get out a year early. And I said, so I'm just supposed to go to school next year and just rack up however, like 12 more credits than I need to go to school? That doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
So she was very adamant about trying to keep me in. My mom went in and was like, he's fine. Like, let him sign the paper. And she actually lied to us and said she hadn't signed anybody's papers when I had friends that she did sign.
Okay.
And so it actually took my dad going in there and being pretty upset to finally get her to sign the paper. So take that, Mrs. Chemist.
Okay, so you did
anyway.
end up being out a year or so sooner.
Yeah. I ended up graduating 05. I would have graduated 06.
Gotcha.
So, but it was kind of annoying to have done all the heavy lifting already, and it would just be administrative nonsense that was going to make me have to come back to high school, which completely unnecessarily, which I don't know that I would have done. I might have tried to transfer to another school just to get somebody who would sign it. I don't know exactly what the move would have been. Yeah. But,
and then did you go to
I was not happy.
College, or did you just start working?
I just started working. I immediately started. It's kind of a weird, when I tell people I graduated at 16, they're like, what are you talking about? I would have graduated at 17 if I would have graduated normal.
Gotcha.
So I immediately started working as I was already working at a construction company, and I immediately started full-time there as a mechanic.
Okay.
So
that's awesome.
It was heavy equipment and mechanic type work for the next 10-ish years. And then at an oil terminal after that. And now I'm doing this. So it's kind of a weird,
cool.
a weird journey, but I'll take
You'll have to tell me more about, how one played into the other.
Well, I mean, it's not that crazy of a story that, I worked in those mechanic fields for so long, and I just kind of every few years would get a different job at a different place that had in what I thought was going to be better benefits or pay or whatever, and just kept trying to level up in that area. Eventually that led to working at the oil terminal, which was the best job in that field that I had, but it was really demanding time-wise. Like, I was gone all the time.
Yeah.
And semi on call every other weekend, and it was a really good job. It really was. It just, I think I've told this part of the story before, but maybe not so completely. I just found myself going like, man, I've worked so hard to get to this exact point. I really don't like it though.
Yeah.
It's not what I thought it was going to be. I don't know what else I thought it was going to be. It was exactly what it looks like. I just realized I need to make some changes, because I'm miserable doing this every day.
Yeah.
And I was in my mid-20s staring down the barrel of doing that till I was 65 going, right. I don't think so. I don't think this is going to work for me mentally.
And you just loved music and just were you in a band? Like,
I was in like a non-professional band, but it's like as serious as you can be without being full-time professional. We weren't touring or anything, but we were seriously writing and all really loved music to a very serious degree and still do. But I got we were all obsessed with gear, but I think I was extra obsessed with gear and fell in love with that side of the industry.
Yeah.
Just pedals and everything. And I just wanted to be in it so bad, but I had no idea of how to shove my way into it.
Totally.
And so I just was like, well, there doesn't seem to be anybody doing podcasts in this space. There were, but not in the interview style at the time. And so I was like, let's give it a try. And I immediately I was posting stuff on Instagram too. That was kind of my first entry point. I actually posted a picture of, I have a 65 Ampeg J12. I posted a picture of that, and I remember the day. It was March 19th. And strangers were liking it. I was like, well, this is weird, because I wasn't even really on social media before that.
Gotcha.
And I realized, I think maybe there's something here. And I just kept going and making more content. And the podcast started not too long after that and just kept going and going and going. And
awesome.
Here we are.
Yeah.
That was a long ramble I didn't expect to get into.
Awesome.
But
I love it.
And now I'm here talking to you.
That's awesome.
Which is great.
Oh, yeah.
Which I have to pinch myself a little bit. Like, this is crazy.
Oh, that's so cool.
So going back to you, though, which is the point of this whole episode, how did you get from, so you're playing in the Metallica band, you're pretty young at the time. What did the progression look like after that?
Yeah, playing in that, and then just playing in, original bands. That was more house shows and smaller shows and that kind of thing. And at this point I was in college, which I wasn't like, my mom, like, put a lot of emphasis on higher education, which she's right. She's a nurse as well. So she's, I don't want, it's like single mom, like did the majority of raising my brother and I, and she kind of put herself through school, like one class at a time. Like, so she put like a lot of emphasis on like, you have to go to school after high school. Cause I think her experience is like, this is really hard when you're already in the workforce. And
it is.
Yeah. And, so I enrolled in Temple University, which is like in Philadelphia, just cause it was kind of like at the time, like sort of the least expensive option. And I could like do it and take the train and not have to like pay for housing, and like was kind of making decisions based on that. And, still playing in many bands and working at Guitar Center and like teaching lessons, and worked in a kitchen for a little while. And one of my friends sent me a link that she found that said like Cirque Du Soleil was hiring musicians. And again, like we were talking about, like I had been like touring and playing out a lot and recording and stuff like that. But I never heard of Cirque Du Soleil. I didn't have a specific desire to do that type of musician job. I mean, it really is like straight up like a job. Like it's not,
Totally.
There's no gray areas. Like it's, you clock in to that, which I didn't, really know or care about that at the time. It just was appealing to me to kind of explore like, oh, what even is that? So I applied for that. And that was like, again, like kind of an audition process that went on for quite a few weeks, where they would ask me for different things. And, this is like 2010 or 11, somewhere in there. So, I mean, it's like, there was like YouTube and stuff, but it wasn't like it is now. And like social media wasn't quite like used the way it is now. So I can remember like they would ask me, can you send us a video of yourself playing in these specific styles? And I had like a handheld camcorder, and I would like, USB that to my like desktop and email them, whatever. And that's how we were like communicating. It just seems so much.
Just pop your iPhone out. And,
like I didn't have a smartphone at the time and whatever. So I was driving to work at Guitar Center, and they called me and they were like, yeah, we're going to hire you. So do you want to move to Las Vegas from Philly?
Hi, I'm Vincent, and I'm here to talk about the Baroness Mercury X. My dad's always going on about how cool Maris is. He really went off on one about the Mercury X the other day. He said something about a 4,800 hertz sample rate and 99 preset locations in 33 banks, and something along the lines of the most advanced reverb pedal ever devised by man? That's all true, but I only care about one thing. This pedal sounds sick. So make sure you check out the Mercury X and all the other fine products at maris.us, as well as fine retailers worldwide. All right, Dad, now can I have my Pocky?
How exactly do artists get their music on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these services? How in the world do you get your music there? Well, in the past, you had to use something called a record label. But these days, you can use DistroKid. DistroKid is the absolute easiest way to get your music up on streaming services, and it's the most affordable way to do so. Not only do plans start at $22.99 for the entire year, that's less than $2 a month, DistroKid also does not take a cut of your streaming revenue, unlike some other services out there. Even better if you sign up by going to tonemob.com/distrokid. That's tonemob.com/distrokid. One more time, that's tonemob.com/distrokid. You'll get 30% off. That's right, 30% off their already extremely reasonable prices. So go to tonemob.com/distrokid and get your music out there. Whoa.
And I was like, yeah, let's go. I was 20 years old. I was like, definitely.
Vegas, baby.
Like, no thought went into that answer. I was like, yeah, let's do this. So I stopped going to school to pursue like just working. Finished school later, like online, as I was working at Cirque Du Soleil. But yeah, I feel like I was in college because I knew it was like responsible, but I wasn't like passionately like going for a specific degree. It was, it felt a little like going through the motions in a very
like
expensive
I'm here because I'm supposed to be, but not because I have a goal in mind. That's what you do.
I'm just like,
right?
I just am having, taking out loans to do this thing that feels like really unsure. So yeah, stopped doing that and started working. I moved to Montreal, which is where Cirque du Soleil is based out of. And I lived there for a few months, and we were part of what they call the creation team for a new show that they were working on, which is still open out in Vegas. So it's kind of like a residency show that we were all part of the creation of it in Montreal, took what we did there and moved it into a theater that was built into a casino in Vegas, which is like so weird. Very random thing to kind of stumble upon. But it was a great experience. It was 484 shows a year. So it was like serious.
Wow.
Like,
that
schedule.
Is a lot.
Yeah. I did that for almost 5 years when it was all said and done. And it was like, yeah, again, really great experience. I think I just got to a point with it where I was like, I feel like I'm not really growing or pushing myself in the way that I want to be. And I was young. I was like, I'm not ready to kind of be at this point where like, this is it. Because at the time I didn't have like another person that I could sub out with. So I couldn't like do that and then go tour and come back. So like the show is still open, and they have like a friend of mine, Neely Brosh, plays guitar for the show. And she has there's another girl that plays there named Sharin. And so like Neely will like go off on tour with like, I think she's on tour with Death Clock right now, nice. And then she'll like go back. And so it's like a little more like maybe sustainable for those two women to like pursue other things, work at the Cirque show, kind of come and go.
That's like a have your cake and eat it too situation.
I suppose so. Yeah.
Yeah. In some ways, I'm sure it's grueling, but you can kind of do both a little bit.
Maybe it's a little more balance. So yeah, I got a little like burnout on that type of work. 'Cause you can't really change up what you're doing for really like safety reasons. Like there's a lot going on. It's like a huge kind of like theater production. So yeah, great experience. I moved on from that in like 2016-ish. And that's around the time I met John.
Can we pause for a second?
Yeah.
I'm curious so once you're there at the show, before we get to this next stage, I want to get into this. What does the day-to-day life look like when you're playing that many shows, and when you're actually there playing? Like, where are you? I've never been to a Cirque du Soleil show.
Yeah.
I know what it is, but like, where are you situated? What does that setup look like? I'm sure a lot of people aren't as familiar with that as that's a very unique experience. And I'd like to get a little more dirt.
Yeah.
What's the detail there?
Yeah, like I was 20. I asked no questions. I was like, yeah, let's go. Like, I'm here. Like, go to Canada. Like, cool. I drove up there from Philadelphia with my like Marshall half stack and my Kramer SM1 guitar. And I was like, hey, what's up? I'm here. Like, and they're like, okay, cool. Like, they had kind of like dorms for the people working at the show. So it was like you lived in these dorms, like everybody lived together in like kind of a dorm space. And then across the street was like Cirque du Soleil's headquarters, which I always describe as like Circus NASA. It was like these massive, like a massive building with massive rooms where they were just trying like ideas. Like, what if we catapulted this person like across this thing and they landed on a trampoline and that catapulted someone else and they're like have like fireworks coming out of their shoes, or like it was just like this insane creative space. And then like the upstairs was like this whole like costume design department and like a whole makeup designing kind of world. So I mean, it's like really cool to see all that. It's just like I had never even imagined anything like this outside of like like guar would be like,
Right.
like seeing pictures of guar is like what I have in my head. So now I'm seeing like all of this, like a whole world that exists of this stuff. So yeah, I showed up and I was like, where's the band? So the show was Michael Jackson won. So it's like the music of Michael Jackson. And
Okay.
yeah, I was like, where's the band? And they're like, no, there's no band. It's just like you. I assumed I'd be like under the stage with a band in some kind of pit in darkness. And like,
that's what I assumed too.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we're getting into this.
So they're like, no, there's no band. Like, it's just you. And we have all the stems to like every Michael Jackson recording ever. And we're going to take all the guitars out. So you would play over them. And you're going to be this like character in the show. And oh, here's a picture of like what you have to wear. And they show me this picture of this like drawing that one of the costume designers made of this insane like thing. So I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like all completely gold. I think I was nearly 7 feet tall in like the
geez.
entire thing. So it was like giant stiletto, like Gene Simmons boots. And like this insane like blonde wig that was like, you know, I don't know, over a foot above my head. And just like all this stuff. And like in the drawing was a guitar shooting fire. So they're like, yeah, we're hoping you would like play this guitar that shoots fire. So we're going to figure that out down the line. But that's the jam here. That's what's going on.
Well, that's everyone's dream come true, right?
So I was
there.
like, okay, that's not what I thought I said yes to, but yeah, let's do that. Okay. So we had some months of like them trying to figure out where I was at, like what was my willingness to like participate in the other aspects of the show that weren't just playing. Like they'd be like, hey, have you ever been upside down? Like, do you think you could play the solo for Beat It and then get in this thing that is going to like shoot you in a wheel, like off the stage where you would be. And I was like,
No
yeah,
way.
like, yeah, well, let's try. Like, I think I just kind of said like, yeah, to everything. Like, let's check it out. So I remember like getting in this wheel. There was like straps for my feet, like kind of like a snowboard would have. And
Yeah.
like two handles like above my head, sort of like above each shoulder.
Okay.
So they're like, yeah, maybe just hold the guitar with your left hand and hold on. And if this works out, maybe we can strap the guitar somehow like to your body, like in a more secure way. Like we don't really know, but they're like, but we have really great insurance. And then they like sent me off.
But we have great insurance. So good luck, kid.
Yeah.
I am so glad I asked this question because I literally thought you were going to be like, oh, it wasn't that. I was just kind of in the pit with the rest of the people.
Totally.
This is so much crazier than I imagined.
Yeah,
This is
like
wild.
that's what I thought I was kind of getting into. So I mean, it was like a lot more like fun because you were like exploring different things. Like you would work with like if they had like they had this whole costume designing department. So you'd be like, oh, like this thing like doesn't work with how the guitar needs to lay. So like, can we try that? Like, you know, it's pretty like fun to just mess around with that kind of stuff. Like stuff you would never think about. It's just like a really cool creative environment, very wacky, eccentric kind of thing. So whatever. So yeah, that was that. I mean, and then there was like a whole studio kind of world where they'd be like, hey, do you want to hear the isolated shaker track from Thriller? And I was like, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that was like that experience. And then we took that into the theater. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it seated about, I guess like 1,200 people.
Okay.
Somewhere in there, like a 1,200 capacity room. It was cool. Like when it opened, I mean, it still has this. I guess maybe this is more common now with like whatever, like movie tavern and stuff like that. But like, you know, there's like total like surround sound, like speakers and everyone's like seats. And, you know, I don't know. At the time, that seemed like that wasn't that common. It seemed really...
I don't think it's... I
seemed
still
pretty
don't
cool.
think it's super common. Yeah. That's crazy.
So yeah, that's still open. Yeah, it was hard to kind of do anything else like with that kind of schedule. So
Yeah, and so what did you say? 400 and what shows a year? So multiple a day, obviously.
Yeah, twice a day, 484 shows a year, and there would be some, sometimes they would be shut down for 2 weeks because they would do some like routine maintenance on it was a lot of like automated like moving scenery and.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, there was parts of the stage that like would get lowered. So like if you took a wrong step, you could risk like falling into like a 8-foot pit that would drop you into the basement. And so, there's like all these like kind of like hilarious like hazards where it's like, oh my God, that could happen. It's like playing Mario Kart or something.
Right. Look out for the bananas.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
did you ever get injured while you were being rotated off the stage or anything, or have any close calls?
I mean, just like stuff that was my own, like dumb. Like one time I was like running up a set piece and I just like fell and like totally like ate face first.
Okay,
and
that'll do it.
My guitar was on. So yeah, the guitar was modeled after the Kramer SM1. That was the guitar I brought that I thought would be most suitable for the type of music. It had like a coil split, so I could get like a pretty good Strat sound and whatever. So it's a pretty versatile guitar, and you have Floyd Rose, all that stuff.
Totally.
So I programmed all the tones through like a fractal, and then that all got like all your patch changes would get like MIDI triggered with the rest of the time code of the show. So that's kind of how that worked. So yeah, my guitar was like on. You totally could hear like boom. I had to get like, I don't know, 15 stitches up my shin.
Oh geez, it was gnarly.
So it was like a pretty stupid thing that I did. Yeah, and then one time I was like on a sort like it's called a slack line. It sort of looks like the idea of a tightrope, but it's a bit wider, like almost like ratchet straps. It kind of looks like, and they have a lot of give to them. Like there's like these really athletic dudes that like bounce and like flip off of them and do all kinds of insane stuff that I could never do. So they're like, "Can you stand on that and play a guitar solo?" So I was like, "I'll try to do that."
Okay.
So that was like one thing I like fell off of it and like never hit my head pretty good, but
I would have definitely fell off of that. There's no way I'm balanced enough.
Totally.
I would have just fell completely.
But yeah,
that's so cool. Like you were, I know that was one of the questions in the Facebook group was ask her to talk about the Cirque Du Soleil stuff. And I had no idea it was going to be like, oh, you were full blown part of the show. Like as much as anybody else. That's a very, very unique experience.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, thanks for asking.
So cool.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So cool. So you met John.
I met John.
And how did that progress?
I met John on Instagram, which sounds very creepy of me. I met him on Instagram.
I met Scott, one of the most important people in my life, on Instagram.
That's
so
awesome.
I get it.
Yeah. I live in Philly now. That's where I'm from. So my whole family's here. I lived in Vegas, but I would come to Philly anytime there was, like I was saying, like little periods where they would be doing maintenance or cleaning on the theater and we would get some time off. So I would just come home to Philly and hang out with family and friends. So I was like searching for a particular type of fuzz pedal that I was pretty sure this one guitar shop in Philly would carry. It's a place called DePinto Guitars. And they make custom guitars. And yeah, I mean, lots of people have, I want to say maybe Jack White has a DePinto guitar.
I remember Andy Martin playing them in the early PGS days in some videos. So
yeah,
that's my touch point there.
And the dude from Conan O'Brien, from the late night show, his guitar player like has one. Forget his name. Anyway, it's a cool shop in Philly. Check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like looking up, do they have this pedal? I couldn't remember the name of it. I ended up just Googling like Philly fuzz pedal. And what came up was a company called Philly Fuzz pedals, which I never heard of. And I was like, oh, what is this? Add to cart immediately.
Yep.
And I just sent them an email and I was like, hey, I just ordered this, but I'm going to be out of town. I'm actually going to be in Philly. So instead of shipping it, I can just come get it. They're actually based out of the neighborhood that I grew up in, which is just weird coincidence.
Oh, crazy.
So yeah, they're like, cool, no problem. See you later, you know. And then John sent me an Instagram message from his like art account. Like it wasn't the band, but it's like, you know, A Perfect Monster is John's like art page, which I followed because I was a massive Baroness fan. And he was like, hey, did you just buy a Philly Fuzz pedal? I was like, yes, I did. Hi. And he's like, cool. Like, that's my friend, Steve. He makes those and I like help him make them. And when you pick it up, do you want to jam? And I was like, yeah, totally. Let's do that.
That's crazy.
So he's like,
okay.
yes, he has like a bunch of other pedals that he's like working on. And I have stuff at my place, like prototypes, and we should like check it out. And I think he was like, maybe we can make like a demo or some of like Steve's prototype pedals that he's working on, because at the time, I was like posting a lot of like whatever pedal demos and stuff. So I think that was kind of the context of like jamming, was maybe we could do something like that. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I met John and we jammed and tried all the pedals. And I think we played guitar for like 8 hours the first day we met, like just in his basement. And yeah, it was awesome. We just played really well together. I thought like it sounded really cool. And John's a really nice guy. Like we just got along. Like it was easy. It was an easy hang. So we just kind of were like, yeah, we'll stay in touch. And eventually he was like, oh, next time you come to town, maybe learn some Baroness songs and we could like play those. And I was like, yeah, I know a couple of Baroness songs. And he's like, cool, I'll send you some more.
I know a few.
Yeah. So he sent me this list of like 36 songs to learn. He's like, learn these ones. I was like, all right, it seems like a lot for a jam. And then I think he was just trying to be like really chill about everything. He was like, yeah, Nick and Sebastian like are going to be in town. Like maybe let's play with them. Like, did you learn some of those songs? And I was like, yeah. So I met the Nick and Sebastian and John. We had like a band practice. And then that was it. They're like, all right, see you later.
Oh, okay.
I was like, okay, that was cool. It's like one of my favorite bands of all time. No big deal.
No big deal. No sweat.
Yeah, and then it kind of just like progressed from there in like a really chill way. There was never like, welcome to the band. It was just like, I guess at some point John was like, yeah, like Pete Adams, who was the current guitar player at the time, he's like kind of moving on to other things. And like, do you want to like check this out? Do you want to try to play or fill in for him or like whatever it was, you know, like initially? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I put in my 2 weeks at the Cirque Du Soleil job to kind of pursue that. I was kind of going to do that anyway. I was like ready to kind of just come back to the East Coast and get more focused on like just starting a band or just getting back into like touring and stuff. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's something like as cool of an experience as that had to have been. There's something missing when you're not actively trying to like make your own stuff or write.
Yeah.
I feel like we all have that itch we have to scratch somehow. And I mean, maybe not everybody, but most people I talk to have some sort of need to create something new. And when it's all Michael Jackson covers, now granted, probably presented in the most epic way that could possibly ever be presented.
Totally ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. It can still kind of probably get a little bit stale, especially after that many shows a year.
Yeah. And like, it's like you said, like with your job, like you get to this point and you're like, I thought I wanted this, but like, I don't love this. Like, I don't love how this feels, which is kind of like strange because you're like, I am like playing guitar for a living on paper. But as far as like creativity and writing and actually like being yourself on your instrument, you can only like do that by yourself in your house for so long, which is what I was doing before you kind of feel like, what am I doing? You know? Mm-hmm. So,
yeah.
We are brought to you today by Sweetwater, specifically the Gear Exchange. You may have heard about this. This is a place where you can go to buy and sell your used gear. Maybe you got a pedal over there that's just kind of collecting dust. Maybe there's something you've been eyeing from the Sweetwater catalog. Well, right now is a great time to turn that unused gear into something you're actually going to use. Even better, if you sell on the gear exchange, you can keep 100% of the sale as long as you choose a Sweetwater gift card as your payout method. That is not too shabby because, let's be honest, most of this buying and selling we do is just to fund new gear purchases, and that is a great way to reach a wide variety of customers and keep 100% in your pocket, or rather on your pedal board. So go check out the Sweetwater Gear Exchange and turn that unused gear into something that's actually going to help you write that next huge riff.
Hello there. I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend, the Chase Bliss Audio Lossy. Lossy is a collaboration between Chase Bliss and Goodhertz. And it's meant to give you some control over those weird digital artifacts that come with very compressed audio. You're hearing it right now. All the changes that are taking place are strictly coming from my playing dynamics. I'm just interacting with the pedal and letting it do its thing. In some true stereo goodness. If you'd like some more details about Lossy, I'd invite you to head over to chaseblinssaudio.com. I think you're going to like what you find.
Yep. So with the newest record, so, I mean, at this point, you're in. You're a part of it. How did the writing process? I mean, I've seen a lot of the comments on some of the new releases and everything, and a lot of people are very happy that you're in the band these days. Do you feel that did the process change at all, or did you just come in and add your voice to the mix? How do you feel the process changed or did not change?
Yeah, I think. Well, I joined the band. All of this kind of like lead up time was like 2016. So I always feel like that's sort of when I was like getting into that. Our first show was 2017, or excuse me, my first show with them was 2017. And then we kind of like toured quite a bit. We like went on tour. I like did one show where it was like nobody knew anything. It was just like, here's this person's going to play the show. And then another show where I guess they had announced like, this is what's going on. And then like within, weeks, we were like on tour in Europe. So we were there for like 4 or 5 weeks, came home and pretty quickly started writing like Golden Gray, previous record. So that was like it was cool that we had that time to tour a little bit together, but you're still like getting to know everybody and getting to know everyone's like musical tendencies. And like, it's just like, it's just time that really like solidifies like those bonds just as like on a friend level, on a personal level with your bandmates, and just like on a playing level. So Golden Gray was cool. I had like some preconceived ideas of what I thought new Baroness should sound like. What was like tricky was like where they were coming from was they're like, whatever you think, like we already did that stuff. So we're like kind of abandoning that and doing something totally different. So yeah, it was a lot of like internal meltdowns for me. I'm like, how do I, what to bring to the table and what presentation to kind of put those things in to kind of show like, here's the idea. And yeah, and like Nick and Sebastian and John, they're just nice, down to earth people. I found that out really quickly. And, it wasn't like, here's how it goes. And this is what our thing, this is what we do. Like, it was very like democratic, they'd be like, oh, that's a cool thing. Like maybe it goes with this thing. Like, it was really like a cool process. And then we worked with Dave Fridman on that one, which is the same producer that they did the Purple record with. So that was an amazing experience. He's like one of my favorite producers. I can remember getting a Flaming Lips record like really early on in discovering, like trying to figure out like what kind of music do I like as a teenager. And I remember like reading the liner notes and seeing like Dave Fridman. And I was like, oh, that's the first time I ever like recognized like a producer. Like, okay, cool. Like that was like the first name that I kind of like noticed. Oh, this is a role. So we did that. And then we toured like a lot. And I think just having that time touring, just really getting to know each other's like musical impulses, like you just kind of like start to gel and it becomes more of like almost like a family unit, you know? Totally. So going into for the writing process of Stone was like a lot different. For me, I didn't have like a lot of those self-doubts of like, I'm new here. I don't know where to sit. I don't know who to sit with. Yeah. So it was like, it felt just really natural and like, all right, we did this once before. Let's keep going. In hindsight, it's kind of cool. It Golden Gray really feels like to me, just as like being a Baroness fan from like, since their early days. It's cool to hear Golden Gray. It sounds like to me, like kind of a nice closing chapter to like the series of colors. So it felt really like refreshing and freeing to be like, we can kind of do whatever we want. Not that we wouldn't have done that anyway, but you know,
it kind of wraps it up.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Well, let's see. I did tell people in the Facebook group you were coming on, and they were very excited about it. And largely the if I scroll through these comments, it's mostly, I'm so excited for this. She's awesome. I love Baroness. Like it's a lot of that.
So nice.
So not as many questions as I actually thought, but and also a lot of things that we already covered, especially in regards to the Philly Fuzz stuff and things like that. So let's just, nothing to ask. Just tell her how much I freaking love Baroness.
Awesome. You have such nice fans.
Yeah, they are super nice.
Tone Mob fans are the best.
They are very, very, very nice. Let's see. Oh, here we go. John Schick. He says, what guitar does she own that people would not expect her to? Do you have one?
I don't know if I'm not like a big, this is weird. Like, I'm not a big like collector of guitars. I just am like, these are tools and I know which ones I love and like, yeah. So I have a lot of Tellys. I guess that's not like an unexpected like thing. One of my favorite guitars, like one of the first ones I owned, which is a Jackson DK2M, a Jackson Dinky. It's like a late 90s, early 2000s Jackson. So I love that guitar. That might be the most like maybe unexpected guitar, or maybe not. I have no idea.
I don't know. There's people talking about the Jacksons in here. I feel like people saw that.
Okay,
comment.
cool.
So maybe there isn't one. That's okay.
Yeah, I'm boring. I'm sorry.
No, it's totally good. And now you hit something. Martin, I do not know how to pronounce your last name. Sorry, buddy. Kelly. I'm not even going to try. I'll just sound like an idiot more so than I already do. I only see her with that white Telly. Yeah. Why does she prefer single coil sounds for the Baroness tone?
Yeah. So I have this. It's by pointing to it because it's never far from me. Is this?
That's right. Ooh, there it is.
American Pro 1 Fender Telecaster. Yeah, when I joined the band, I had that same like Kramer SM1, which was cool, and I had I was like borrowing a friend's like Hamer. It was like a little double cut Hamer, and that was kind of cool. It had like humbuckers in it. So I was like kind of trying that stuff. And then I got this used G&L ASAT Classic. It's like a 92 ASAT Classic that I found at like a Sam Ash or something like used. And the previous owner put a Fender N3 noiseless pickup in the bridge, which whatever. Yeah. And it was a single coil Telly regardless, but that just like felt really good. I think the way that we voice our parts, and that's for like all the back catalog and like as we write and just kind of play guitar together, John and I, we're really rarely ever playing the same thing at the same time. It's usually these like harmonic parts or like different chord voicings to kind of complement things. If he's doing something low, I'll typically like go high, and we kind of like do this spread of voicing so that when we are doing the same thing, which usually it's just like a single note kind of part, feels a little more like a moment, like now we're coming together. So that's just like the way we arrange things. It just felt like with single coils, you can kind of hear the spread of what we're doing, where nobody's part is like stepping on the other person's, like nothing's getting like muddied out. Kind of just gave us the clarity that kind of worked for how we voice things. And I play with like pretty like I don't know, like not a ton of distortion, you know. I always feel like more distortion doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be heavier. It could just be like more saturated. So it's like maybe easier to play, which is always good, but not necessarily like heavier. So,
especially if somebody else already has that covered.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You want to complement
Definitely.
or kind of bring your part out in a cool way. So yeah, the single coils just kind of let us have those parts kind of shine and not get trampled on by one or the other. So I hope that answers the question.
I think
Martin.
so. I think that covers it. Guy Dave, he doesn't have his last name. So
Classic.
Hi, Dave.
Classic Dave.
I know who you are, but since you don't have your last name listed, I won't say it. He just posted your Hot for Teacher cover with Mutoid Man, and I had not seen that before, and that was absolutely incredible.
Oh, thanks.
I just wanted to say that was awesome.
They're the nicest dudes ever.
So cool.
They're so cool.
Such a cool thing.
Thank you so much.
And along that same lines, I think this will be the last one from the group, and I'm going to expand on this question a little bit because Kenny Kripak, sorry, again, I don't know. I've only read these names. I've never heard them said out loud. Ask her what it was like to record the most insane guitar solo of the year. It's kind of worded weird. The most insane guitar solo of the year for sure, decade possibly, on Last Word. How did that come apart? Did you sit down and write that whole thing? Was it was it written and thought out beforehand, or did you kind of fly by the seat of your pants and come up with that? How did that happen?
Well, thank you so much for saying that. That's very kind. I wrote out like the idea for it. It was like the first kind of part, and then it would kind of just was like just random whatever shreddy shreds, and that's like kind of how it was for like 2 years, because we had like all the instrumentals recorded. We recorded this album ourselves in an Airbnb house in Berryville, New York. And sorry, I meant to mention this before. Like that was kind of the biggest difference was like with Golden Gray, we had a producer who had an assistant. So we had these like outside like ears helping with like the decision-making process and just the whole album creation in general. Like it's a massive role that a producer plays in the songs, the whole character, the vibe of the whole album. So we didn't have that. We just had each other. We had to like lean on each other and kind of be that role just on an individual level, which was really, really cool. It made the process like really cool, like really hard at some points. You're making like 6 million decisions for every like little part that nobody's going to like notice or care about.
Totally.
But that was a big difference. So we had the instrumentals like done, recorded, and we just had them for a couple years. And it was this like really long process of like doing vocals and like trying to find like where is the song in this kind of psychotic instrumental. And so the kind of like sort of worked out, mostly just shreddy bit sat for like 2 years. We went back on tour. We did this tour that was called the Your Baroness tour, where folks could request what songs they wanted to hear if they got a ticket, or like vote on songs they wanted to hear in the set that night. And we ended up playing like 2.5 to 3 hour long sets, because we would do like the top 10 voted for songs, an acoustic set, and then an hour and a half of like whatever we felt like playing based on the voting. If it was like a blue heavy night, we'd be like, all right, let's just do a blue heavy set at the end to hopefully accommodate the people that maybe their song didn't make it to the top of those, whatever. So
Right.
we did that. We came home. We worked on vocals a little bit more. We went out on tour with Lamb of God. And then after that, we really like hit the ground running with finishing the record. And I was like, I hate this solo. Like I have to change it. Like I really just can't. And John was like, no, I like it because it's kind of wild. And it's like, they're in a lot of music now, like everything's perfect and quantized and like, and he's like, I like that this one's like really spirited. But I was like, well, I want to still have that, but like I hate like how this sounds. And I don't know, in that like 2 to 2.5 year kind of span, this is super dorky, but I just like started studying guitar in a different way. I never stopped taking lessons. I still take lessons with like the same teacher that I've had since I was a teenager. But we just started like doing more intensive like practice and we started like picking apart like jazz standards. And I just kind of started like looking at the fretboard in a different way. And I was like, I think I don't know, for better or for worse, I'm just a different player like now. And I just wanted to reapproach the solo. So it was like, I planned it out like beforehand because I wanted it to really like outline the chord progression. And there's parts of it that are just kind of like, this is what happened in the moment. But it was mostly, like arranged beforehand to specifically outline the chord progression.
Very cool. Yeah.
Sorry, that was really nerdy.
That's what we're here for. Don't ever apologize for getting too nerdy. I like it. But we are getting close to the end of the main episode, and I do have some classic questions I like to wrap these up on before we slide over to Patreon. But before I do that, I like to give the guests a chance to take the floor. You're talking to a couple thousand people right now. You can say whatever you want to say. You can shout out your grandma. You can plug anything you want to plug, your favorite hamburger stand, whatever you want to say. The floor is yours to say it right now. So
Great.
Go for it.
If somebody has a favorite hamburger stand, please message me that so I can go to it while we're on tour. Our album Stone comes out September 15th. Check it out. We're really, really stoked on it. We're very proud of it, and we hope everyone enjoys it as much as we enjoyed making it. That week around the release, we'll be on tour from Poughkeepsie, New York to Atlanta, Georgia, playing in independent record stores that will be carrying the album. So keep an eye out for that on whatever our socials or yourbaroness.com because we might be in your hometown. And then after that, we'll be on the Sweet Oblivion tour from October 13th till December 2nd. And that's the whole U.S., quite a bit of Canada. So we'll likely be in your city or a city nearby. And the list of bands that we have coming out for that tour is outrageous. It's a lot of our favorite bands that we've seen. See if I can list a couple. We have Portrayal of Guilt, Agriculture, Sheer Mag, Zorn, Vile Creature, Jesus Piece. It's a massive list that we kind of just keep adding to. So it'll be sort of like a different grouping of bands like regionally throughout the tour. So
nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Portland?
Absolutely.
Portland? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. We'll be there.
Speaking my language. Perfect. All right, here we go. We're going to close the episode out with the classic questions. First one usually is pretty straightforward. We'll see what you have to say about it. What is your favorite Boss pedal?
The Metal Zone.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm a fellow metal zone appreciator. People just they need
Don't
to get
hate.
with the times.
Yeah.
Just play that EQ. There's some magic in that
Get
thing.
that Swedish death metal, that sweet Swedish death metal tone.
Just go for it. Go for it. I love it. The metals. I actually have a Murdered Out one somewhere sitting right next.
Nice.
It was sitting right next to me on the last episode. I probably took it randomly in the house and stared at it while eating a sandwich.
You're like, God, I love this.
So, I love it so much. I don't know if this is weird or not, but I will I have like pedals just like sitting here and I'll just be like, I'll be like talking on the phone, playing with the knobs, and I'll end up with it in my bedroom for some reason, or in the, it's like, okay,
why is this sitting here? It's just satisfying to look at them.
It is, and just like you kind of click it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, it's my fidget spinner.
I love it.
All right, final question. What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Wow. I mean, I really love pizza. I love a plain pizza, but every once in a while, I love a white spinach and broccoli pizza, like with ricotta.
Mm-hmm.
That's like every now and again, like as a treat. I really like that.
Is that with the spinach and broccoli on like post cook, so it's fresh and kind of adds that crisp, or is it in there with it?
It's in there with it. It's in there, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you got the normal pizza cheese, mozzarella, and then the ricotta, which is if you're from Philly. I don't know why, if you're Italian from Philly or the East Coast, you chop the last letter off of, you chop the last vowel off of any food word you're trying to say. So ricotta cheese becomes ricotta.
Yeah, ricotta, some pizza.
Pizza.
Yeah.
Pizza ricotta.
I like it. Well, if I ever get to Philly, which I need to do, got a lot of people out there, I'll have to have you point me in the right direction to your preferred pizza spots. Do you have a preferred spot?
If you come to Philly, this isn't like for like any fancy variety. This is just for like straight up pizza, but you have to go to Lorenzo's, and that's on South Street. It's a massive slice. It's just a massive slice of dirty pizza. And you're like, I am in Little League, and I'm like transported to another time, and it's awesome.
Oh, I love it. Oh, that sounds so up my alley. I will remember that. Lorenzo's Pizza in Philadelphia. Well, Gina, thank you so much for hanging out. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. This was just as pleasant as I thought it was going to be. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. We'll see what kind of nonsense we can get into on Patreon. That work for you?
All right,
everybody. For Gina, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. Alrighty, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you need more, hey, guess what? There is more over on Patreon. You can go over there, and for $5 a month, you too can get access to bonus episodes of the podcast. That's right. $5 a month gets you bonus episodes every single week, including one with Gina. We had a great conversation. We made some plans to do some fun stuff here in Portland. And it was just a good time all around. And there are lots of good times over there. Plus, there's a nice little bonus thing coming up for Patreon subscribers. And that's all I can really say about it at this point. So go over there if you can. If you can't, I totally get it. Also, I would humbly request that you share this episode with somebody you think would enjoy it. I really, really would appreciate that. It helps out immensely. It literally puts food on the table when you get somebody else to check this out. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I will talk to you on the internet very, very soon.
One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.
Hey, this is Chris Santos, host of Delirious Nomads, the Blacklight Media podcast, part of the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. Delirious Nomads is a podcast about all things heavy metal, as well as breakdowns of your favorite combat sports. And me being a chef and all, we'll be riffing on some food talk every week with very special guests from across the globe. Listen and subscribe at soundtalentmedia.com.
Ever wonder what a punch from Elton John feels like?
Or how you'd cope with having turned down the chance to be in Nirvana?
Or what signal Keith Richards gives when he wants you to get the hell out of his hotel room?
Fans of Too Much Effing Perspective don't have to wonder, because they've heard these exact stories and a jillion others on our podcast. I'm Alex Hoffman, former tour manager for Radiohead.
And I'm musician and comedy writer Alan Keller. On the TMEP show, we get guests like Nancy Wilson from Heart, Jeremiah Freites from the Lumineers, and Modern Family's Julie Bowen to tell us things they may have only shared with their therapist, clergy, or a TMZ stringer.
So join us on Too Much Effing Perspective. That's EFFING Perspective. The only podcast you crank up to 11.